Good morning and welcome to the fifth episode of Rally for the Republic on June 12, 2024. I'm your host, Bryan Rudnick, and thank you for listening. In today's show, quick topics, Hunter and Joe Biden, the attempts at a ceasefire in the Middle East, the 2024 election, and of course, the judiciary. I'm Bryan Rudnick. This is Rally for the Republic, and I'll be back in a moment.
This is a battle cry for the American way of life and a relentless pursuit of truth and justice. It comes from a voice with unmatched experience and unyielding resolve. Join us as we dissect current events and tip the scales in your favor. This is Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
This is Bryan Rudnick, Rally for the Republic, here at our headquarters on topic number one, Hunter Biden, America's model citizen. As you heard, he was found guilty yesterday on all three charges, and before jetting off to Italy, his daddy went to Delaware to console him, the same man who was not going to pardon him. Still believing that? I'm not. Okay. The question you really want to know is, how many other criminal families is Joe Biden going to go console before their family member is head off to prison? What do you think? Anyone? No, because he calls everybody a super predator. And 3 hours after his son is nabbed, going to jail possibly on lying on the gun application, and then, drawing out this whole charade, Joe Biden gives a speech to Mike Bloomberg's Every Town for Gun Safety, a real farce of an organization. And he tells them, in 2 weeks, we're going to mark the second anniversary of the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. What that really means is the bipartisan, we made your life hell and tried to take away your Second Amendment Act. And he created the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention that has prevented no gun violence. Why? Because our border is still open. The Democrats sought to defund law enforcement. They're not going to do anything about it. It's a big joke. You're starting to think, what's more likely to get done? A reasonable ceasefire with Hamas, or Joe Biden securing the borders, ending crime, showing respect to law enforcement and actually funding them, and telling his friends on the left that, no, we actually need law enforcement. They need guns. They need tactical vehicles. Everything AOC wanted to ban. He's got to turn to her and all her lefty allies and say, guess what? They need them. America, thanks to you people in BLM, not so safe. So need to be a law and order president. But let's face it, unlikely. Why? Because you got George Soros has funded prosecutors all across the country, from St. Louis, everywhere, every coast, New York. I mean, let's face it, we're not even going to get into Alvin Bragg. And we've got corrupt judges who refuse to enforce the laws, don't respect our Constitution, and then there's cashless bail. So if you've ever wondered, even a member of Congress, Mike Collins from Georgia, he and his staffer got mugged in Washington, D.C., the city that has more law enforcement officers anywhere in America. So if you're getting mugged as a congressman in the streets of D.C., there's cashless bail in New York, and with Alvin Bragg, and then there's the St. Louis prosecutor going after a married couple defending their homes from BLM mobs, among other problems. Why in the world would you think this would be a country without gun violence when you have a president of the United States who more favors gun control than funding our police? And he's made it clear, with his second anniversary coming up, he plans to, quote unquote, once again, do what I did when I was senator, ban assault weapons. I mean it. Well, guess what I mean, Joe? No, you're not going to ban our guns. The Second Amendment is clear. And I'm going to help to rally America into making sure you are a one-term loser president who doesn't come after our Second Amendment rights any more than you've attempted to censor our First Amendment rights. Pause for the cause, and I'll be back to you in a moment with our next topic.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
So while Joe Biden is busy trying to deal with European allies or supposed allies in the Middle East and Europe and all sorts of negotiations that are bound to happen once he arrives in Italy, he's got Blinken over there, back to shuttle diplomacy with Qatar and Egypt and others, and they're trying to get a ceasefire done. And the only thing they can do is get Hamas to say, no, we got amendments, and you people aren't listening, so we're firing 200 rockets into Israel in less than 24 hours. He can't get them to do anything reasonable, can't get them to stop firing missiles into Israel, harming Israelis. And even Blinken had to admit that Hamas's requests are unworkable. Hamas is like an obstinate child, and yet Why would they stop? The U.S. and everybody else is saying, hey, let's give them some more food. Let's give them aid. Let's give them money. Let's give them a pat on the back. Let's admonish Israel. Tell them to be nice. Where are the U.S. Navy SEALs that we sent over to Israel in the early days? How come they haven't gotten the American hostages back? Why are we tying Israel's hands behind their back and not allowing them to go after the 100 Israeli hostages and bring them back to their families? Quite frankly, we got to stop negotiating, stop appeasing Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, and let's stop treating this like it's some divorce and you're at a mediation for a divorce where nobody sits in the same room. Everybody uses an intermediary. Nothing gets done. That's why nothing's getting done here. Only the terrorists are winning like the lawyers in a divorce. Why? Because most lawyers are terrorists. Let's face it, especially when it gets to family court. I know. I've got personal experience. I've met these people. Nobody's got a brain except when they're extorting you and making you draw out your divorce and custody battle. So, like Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, we're patting them on the back. We're saying, oh, no, we won't let Israel kill your civilians. And, the UN is there saber rattling and saying you can't kill civilians. Guess what? It's time to be the United States of America. It's time to act like it. It's time for Biden and Blinken to put on their man pants, grab their balls, and tell Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran, guess what? We don't care if we upset our Arab allies. What you're going to do is what we tell you to do. You're going to start fearing us. You don't like what we're doing? We're bombing civilians. We're telling Israel, do whatever they got to do. They got to drop white sulfur on you, so be it. It's your fault. You decided to start killing on October 7th. You took hostages. We want them back. There's no negotiating. You don't get tit for tat with taking our hostages. No, sorry. The United States doesn't play that game. We'll pay you off. Barack Obama masterfully proved that. But no, you don't want to play nice? We drop bombs. Period. End of story. New sentence. Because what's the reality that you're going to face here? More terrorists who are going to kidnap Americans, kidnap Israelis? We got Prime Minister Netanyahu. Let's understand something about this man. Whether you like his internal politics or not, the man has truly been a patriot for the state of Israel. He's been very, very good to the United States of America. And I encourage anybody who cares about the true history of Israel to learn more about Prime Minister Netanyahu's courage and what a hero and a patriot he is for the state of Israel. Since the 1970s, he has sacrificed his life. Unfortunately, his brother sacrificed his life at the raid in Entebbe. But Prime Minister Netanyahu has personally been in battle, been undercover, has done what it takes to keep Israel safe. He's gone behind enemy lines. He knows what it's like to have blood on his hands. He knows that it's important to have peace, and he wants peace. But what choice did anybody give him? And now Biden, the wimp, is going to tell Prime Minister Netanyahu, a hardcore, battle-hardened man, that he should have his hands tied behind his back and not do everything and anything he can to rescue Americans and rescue Israelis and keep his country safe. Bull feathers. That's not how we're doing things here, folks. No, they don't respond to things like that in the Middle East. In the Middle East, it's simple. You want somebody to respect you, you drop bombs, you kill their families. That's how it gets done. They cry to the UN, woe is them, who cares? We move on. We're getting our people back. Stop telling Israel to negotiate with terrorists. Netanyahu's a hero. Stop treating him like anything other than a hero. I've personally met the man. He's amazing. And anybody from Chuck Schumer to Joe Biden to Nancy Pelosi that is treating him like garbage tells you everything you need to know, because all three of those people are weak-kneed, yellow-bellied, whatever Joe Biden's words are for people he doesn't like. Malarkey is what I say to them. Netanyahu's a hero. Let him do his job. Stop making it more difficult. But again, what would these leftists know, right? I mean, they keep coming after Trump in the same way. Netanyahu and Trump, there's a lot of parallels there. If you haven't figured that out, in fact, they used to be friends. They've endorsed each other in elections. Trump even did a television commercial for him in one of his last elections. But, we need to think about what's going on also here in the United States in our 2024 election. Last night, there were primary elections all around the country. And while I don't have a full list in front of me of the losers and the winners, you can be sure Donald Trump once again won. Some of his endorsements carried the day. He's carrying water for candidates across the country in places like Nevada and South Dakota, some of those places where they could be deeply blue or purple. Now, not so successful in Ohio, and the Democrats are going, oh, look, Joe Biden's not as bad. We carried some votes in Ohio that Trump won in 2020. Different time, people, different things. Let's face it. You know what Joe Biden did to win those votes. He bought and paid for them. He thinks he's the Kennedys on steroids with your money, handing it out left and right. He doesn't want anybody to think about his failures. So what's he going to do? He's going to hand out funny money, your money, the money you earned, paid to Uncle Sam, and he's buying votes with it. That's right. What do you think the student loan forgiveness is all about? Did you forget about that? Joe Biden is following the keys to winning an election in America. Outside of stealing the votes, and let's face it, we know he's more capable than the Clintons of doing it. He is lying to people. He's telling them what they want to hear, and he's giving them things. And he's giving them things with your money. That's how he's buying the votes. But let's go on to what's happening here. The Democrats, they've decided Donald Trump and the litigation against him not going so well for them. Talked about that the other day. So they got a new trick up their sleeve. It's called lying about Donald Trump all over again. More lies, more lies, more lies. I think they call them lies, lies, and damn lies. So the new plan, Trump's retribution and retaliation. Yesterday, we talked about how AOC wants you to believe Donald Trump is coming for her. And like I pointed out, she's nowhere near the top of the list, probably not even in the top 20. And Steve Bannon has some quotes out there, and he has told the left, especially the deep staters in the FBI and the DOJ and others like them, to get their passports ready, to get the hell out of the country because, hey, we're coming. And he's threatening them that in a Trump second term, Donald Trump will be coming for them. Now, who's got the clarion call on this one? Andrew McCabe. You remember Andrew McCabe, acting FBI director, okay, after Trump fired James Comey, the treasonous one? Right. So now we got Andrew McCabe, part of the deep states. He's sounding off. Quite frankly, he sounds like he's offering and encouraging people to engage in treason. He's having lots of conversations with former colleagues, people who are in intelligence in the law enforcement community. You know, the ones that said Trump was in bed with Russia. You know, those ones, the ones who forgot to mention to Nancy Pelosi she should secure the Capitol building on January 6th. All those kinds of people. So he's in bed with them. He's having conversations with them, and they're all intelligent people in intelligence and law enforcement, and they're really trying to, quote unquote, assess like what life is going to be like if Donald Trump wins the second term. Well, let's guess. It's probably going to be more free, more prosperous, better. We might even do what Republicans have always claimed to do. We're going to secure our borders, and we're going to reduce the size of our federal government. And that apparently is what's bothering him. Donald Trump might reduce the size of the federal government, and it might start with the Department of Justice and the FBI. So they're having torturous discussions with their family members about whether or not they have to leave the country to avoid being unconstitutionally and illegally detained. This is a quote, really. You see, he says, I mean, people were actually worried about being thrown in jail or grabbed in some sort of extrajudicial detention. Wow. Imagine how Donald Trump feels, man. Are you sure you're not Donald Trump saying these things? Because you're the people, your friends are the ones treating them like this is a banana republic. But the Democrats, thanks to people like Andrew McCabe, are going to carry, and their friends in the liberal media, they're going to carry on this lie because Steve Bannon's the boogeyman and he's masterminding everything Donald Trump, though he's not coordinating, he's not part of the campaign. And Steve Chung, Trump's campaign communications director, sets the record straight. As President Trump has said, the ultimate revenge is the success of the American people. Individuals like McCabe have dishonored themselves by lying to investigators and peddling fake news. Yes, McCabe is scared. Steve Bannon is, pushing the flames to scare him more. Heck, why not? Why not? Look what they've done to the conservative movement. Look what they've done to us. Look what they've done to Trump. Look what they've done to everybody who's tried to help Trump. The left ought to be scared. The left ought to fear what we're going to do to them. Absolutely. We're going to undo their socialist policies. We're taking back our country. That's what Rally for the Republic is all about. Taking back our country. Governing the country like it's meant to be. So, they want to bash President Trump. They want to say anything Biden and the left and their allies do and say, they're not responsible for. But if somebody close to Donald Trump says it, Donald Trump's responsible for it. That's the lie they're carrying on. That's the lie they're going to repeat like Adolf Hitler taught them to do. And that's what they're going to do to try to fool the American public in this election. These are the same people that told you Donald Trump encouraged his supporters to go storm the Capitol building, except for Donald Trump gave a speech where he told people to march peacefully. I heard it. You heard it. Even the liberal media heard it. They got the video footage. At no time did the man say scale the walls, break the doors, break the glass windows, defecate in Nancy Pelosi's office. No, just the opposite. He said respect law enforcement and march peacefully. Yet somehow he's blamed for everything else that happened. Adults taking actions that they, in a wayward fashion, decided was on his behalf became his fault. But when BLM supporters and Antifa and the kids on college campuses paid for by George Soros did what they did, Joe Biden is not responsible. Malarkey. We're going to take a break here for a second and then on to the judiciary.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Okay, it's Bryan Rudnick, Rally for the Republic, coming to you from our headquarters with our last topic of the day, the judiciary. We've talked earlier about the secret recordings in our episode yesterday, and the journalist who did them, she just wants us to think she didn't break the law. She is just holding the Supreme Court justices accountable. She is backpedaling. She wants you to know she is personally saving America because nobody else is holding the Supreme Court accountable. And, she's like AOC. There's nothing she can do wrong, and she can just see the big picture. So what if she broke a law? There's no laws in D.C. against recording. That's what she's going with here. And whoa, Alito and everybody else has an opinion. They're terrible. Okay, let's move on to something a little more interesting, like AOC, who's back at it, trying to be relevant, and she's partnered up with another crazy socialist, far left progressive named Jamie Raskin. And the two of them together, they're working on legislation to rein in, quote unquote, to rein in a fundamentally unaccountable and rogue Supreme Court. Interesting, right? And of course, they're pointing to a lot of the stuff we've talked about in some of the prior episodes of the undisclosed luxury trips and gifts and questionable extrajudicial activities involving the justices and how there needs to be congressional oversight and the like. So, I always think it's great when you've got people like AOC who prior to having this job couldn't keep track of a paper bag or 1.75 liter bottle of bourbon. But now she, in her almighty power, is going to hold the judiciary accountable. And Jamie Raskin. Okay, and they're exploring various avenues for holding the Supreme Court justices accountable. Interesting. Great piece of fodder. But let's talk about what's really more important to this one particular issue. It's Jamie Raskin. Remember that name. You've heard that name before. Why? Because this is a man who has way too much power in the United States Congress. He is a radical progressive. He's in a safe seat in Maryland, and we need to change that. He has become probably one of the four biggest Democrat gadflies in Congress. AOC is just trying to learn at his knee, okay? This man was a bigger, more major player in the impeachments of Donald Trump twice. Okay, he's more respected than Adam Schiff. He's considered their constitutional scholar. Okay, they didn't blow their nose without him. And now he's one of the biggest obstacles, one of two of the biggest obstacles to getting Joe Biden and members of the Biden administration impeached. We're trying to get Biden. We're trying to get Mayorkas. Today, we're trying to get Merrick Garland held in contempt. And quite frankly, that man, I should probably do a whole episode or a good portion of an episode on just Merrick Garland, how dangerous he is, how dirty and corrupt he is, because he's taken out his vengeance on anybody who kept him from being United States Supreme Court justice. He is just too smart to be attorney general, and you people are mean. You held him from getting the ultimate job he wanted, so now this is vengeance for him. Remember, he's the one who tried to put jackbooted thugs at Mar-a-Lago to hurt President Trump and go through Melania's undergarment straws. But hey, I divest. We go to the next thing. if the GOP wants to take back control of this country, if conservatives want to take back control of the Congress, if you want to make sure that we actually run this country, we need to put effort and energy into removing people like Jamie Raskin, or at least minimizing his influence. And you need to tell your members of the Oversight Committee, Republican members, do something to shut this guy up. Okay? Because people like him help people like this guy, Judge Hinkle, Robert Louis Hinkle in Florida, make determinations to strike down a Florida ban on gender-affirming care. This is going to be my last topic here on the judiciary. As I've always said, here in Florida, we've got some interesting courts. But more importantly, we got these federal judges, and they just can't wait to do anything to embarrass and hurt the DeSantis agenda. Because Governor Ron DeSantis, truly a great American, a patriot, a great family man. There's not enough good things I could say about him because they're all true. And he constantly runs up against these liberal federal judges appointed by none other than William Jefferson Clinton and other Democrat appointments that we have on the federal benches governing the state of Florida from the federal courts. And of course, they don't want you to keep a young child who is not old enough to make a decision, not old enough to drive a car, not old enough to drink a beer, not old enough to make any other medical decision in the state of Florida, including but not limited to cutting off their genitalia. But Judge Robert Hinkle is blocking the ban that the entire Florida state majority Republican-run legislature and the governor have signed into law, preventing the medical boards from allowing minors to get treatments like puberty blockers and hormones. And he says, quote unquote, Florida's adopted a statute and rule that ban gender-affirming care for minors even when medically appropriate. He goes as far as to say the ban is unconstitutional, and he took 105 pages to offer his decision. So let's be real. What do we need to understand? We've got a liberal judge on the federal court trying to tell us, the citizens, the parents, the taxpayers in Florida, that woe be you in trying to protect a child from making a permanent life-altering decision. That's not your job anymore. That's government's job. And if your child decides that they need to cut their genitalia off, federal courts are going to protect that. What should you take from that? Take back our courts. Hold the U.S. Senate accountable. Hold these judges accountable. And maybe it's time to start impeaching more federal judges. These judges who continue to block Governor DeSantis, whose freedom agenda is proven to work time and again, are also finding the Governor DeSantis appeals and has a high propensity to win. Go ask Disney World what it's like to go after Governor Ron DeSantis and his freedom agenda. Disney, with hundreds of years of case law and millions of dollars worth of lawyers going up against little Ron DeSantis, found out a hard lesson. Big woke corporations, big woke policies, they come to Florida to fail. Governor DeSantis gets it. You don't. The parents and the taxpayers in Florida want the freedom agenda. We want to continue to maintain our rights to protect our children, and we won't let you stand in the way. So Judge Hinkle, watch out. The taxpayers, the voters are going to be coming for you through our U.S. senators, through the impeachment process. I think your days are probably numbered, and we're going to do it the right way. I'll be back in a moment with my final thoughts of the day.
You are listening to Rally for the Republic with your host, Bryan Rudnick.
Okay, it's Bryan Rudnick, Rally for the Republic. I don't want you to think that Scranton Joe is as useless and get a hard lesson that he fools us, because Scranton Joe has a few tricks up his sleeves. Between now and the June 27th debate, I'm pretty certain we're going to see something. I'm pretty certain we're going to see him from now to Election Day try to pull a few rabbits out of his hat, whether it's him, whether it's his allies, whether it's his cronies. He's got people that are still rooting for him, and they're definitely going to do whatever it takes to lie, cheat, and steal to win this election and ensure the left can keep control over us. They're prepared, like I said earlier, to give away student loans, other money, anything you've given the government to buy votes, Joe Biden's going to use. And the control, it's not just about the light bulbs. They want to control every aspect of your life. They don't want you having guns because they don't want you fighting back when they do something illegal and unconstitutional. They don't think you have the rights to do anything. If they want to give your home away to illegal aliens, you could be assured they're going to do it. And that's why it's so important that you listen to what I have to say next. Being that it's June 12th, you probably, but maybe some of you do recognize the end of the quarter is upon us. And for political campaigns and candidates especially, this is a really important time of the year. I will not stress anything else to you, but to tell you that you've got to pay attention, get off the sidelines, and get in the game. Donald Trump's campaign is flush. You've probably sent in your money. You might even send in some more. But you got to get out there and donate to at least 4 to 6 Republican candidates running for Congress in the United States Senate. Do not ignore me. Do not ignore me. If you ignore me, it's at your own peril. Because if you want to take back our country, if you want to control this republic to do good for your family, for your kids, for the future generations of your progeny, you need to take action. You need to make sure that every candidate for the United States Senate and Congress and our candidates down ballot, all the way down to local dog catcher, circuit court judge, you name it, county commission, make sure their campaign coffers are flush. Make sure the money is pouring over for them at the end of the quarter. So on July 1, when their treasurers have to start counting the money and their consultants have to start thinking about how do I ensure victory. Here in Florida, we have an August, 20th primary thereabouts. And in other states, we still have primaries going into September. So we got candidates who still need money. And then they've got a very quick window to win a general election, which means if they don't have the resources, if they don't have money, if they don't have the planning and the staffing right now to get this done, they lose. It'll be your fault, not theirs. Because they've sacrificed the time, the money, the energy to put themselves out there to help our country succeed. And the only way they can do it is if they have the money and the resources to get the job done. This is a very short window from today to the end of the month, from today to Election Day in November. You, the American people, the public, are the only ones who can ensure these candidates have the money. We don't have George Soros. Yes, there are millionaires and billionaires in the Republican Party. But at the end of the day, it's that $25, $50, $100, $1,000 check that matters. And of course, if you can afford to max out at $3,300 to these candidates, do it. Get off your ass and do it. If you want to win, you want to take back our country, make sure our candidates, not just Donald Trump, he's got plenty of money, love the guy, want him to be president, but guess what? Our candidates down ballot need the money too. And as much as the left picks on him and you're motivated to give him money to save America, he's going to need a team of people in Congress. He's going to need a team of people in the governor offices. He's going to need a team of people at the state legislative offices. Okay? He's going to need cabinet level officials in each state who also are going to share a freedom agenda, an America First agenda. So if you want Donald Trump to succeed, that also means you want to take back our Congress and have our Congress succeed with a Republican majority and a U.S. Senate that can do things like hold Judge Hinkle accountable. So get off your ass, donate to a minimum of 4 to 6 candidates before this week is over, before this month is over. Make sure you donate now, donate next week, donate next month, and keep donating until these people win. And when they win, donate some more so they can keep going. Because if they don't have the money to compete against union money and George Soros money and Act Blue money, guess what? They will lose. We need to get the message out. It takes money to do it. That's how you take back our country. So if you want to rally our republic, get in the game. Don't just support these candidates on Facebook, Twitter, and Truth Social. Give them your money so they can help save the country. It's an investment in our future. Thank you again for listening to the 5th episode of Rally for the Republic. I'm Bryan Rudnick, and I'll talk to you more tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us on Rally for the Republic, where we are fighting for America's future. Visit 1776coalition.com. Rally for the Republic podcast is available on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download. Join Bryan Rudnick next time as we continue to fight for the American way of life and challenge the hypocrisy. This is Rally for the Republic.